Hi all, I'm John Hoffman. Today we're going to chat with Pat Fitzgerald of Fitzgerald's Nursery in Kilkenny, Ireland. Of course, Pat is the founder of the EverColor series, and which has been around for a number of years. And we are pleased to be able to offer some of his selections. Today we'll be discussing his latest selection, Carex morrowii Everglow. Pat, thank you for joining us, and we can't wait to hear about how you brought Everglow to the industry.
Hello, John. How are you? Good to see you all the way across the ocean there in North Carolina. And I'd like to thank you for your interest in the Everglow and for bringing us in on this fantastic webinar. It's going to be interesting how all this turns out.
Yes, yes. Well, you've worked with the Everglow for a number of years. Can you tell us how first of all, you selected Everglow? You have been dealing with Oshamensis for a number of years, and now the switch to a morrowii. Would you enlighten us on how that happened?
Yeah. So the Oshamensis, as you know, we've been working on actually since the 90s when we started producing Evergold, and then started getting curious in the mid 2000s about trying to spin out other forms and colors. As you know, Oshamensis is such a wonderful species. It's really hard to see why you'd need to go for color grasses away from that particular species, but we couldn't find within quite a few 100,000 mutations over 10-15 years. We couldn't see any significant sign of what everybody is looking for, a blue or a red, which is far away from us at the moment. But we were hoping through Everglow that we might start seeing the signs of orange or something in some brighter colors, and just wasn't happening. So we had a variety of morrowii called Fisher's Form, which was quite more compact than the typical varieties of morrowii. So we started playing around with that one in tissue culture in the laboratory, and we started spinning out a few plants from mutagenesis program out into the nursery. So we used I suppose in desperation in trying to seek this orange red hues, we started spinning out this particular one, and the leaf color in the variegation of Fisher's Form always gave that impression there could be a different shade of yellow or orange in there. So out of about, I daren't say, but maybe 10-20,000 plants of lab produced Everglow, or as it is now Everglow, but as it was then Fisher's Form, we found this one which showed quite a significant different summer color. It wasn't apparent to us in the spring, but it became apparent to us in the summer that this one was certainly showing this color break that we were looking for in Oshamensis, and we still haven't found yet in Oshamensis. So that's really where it began with Everglow. And then from there on, we subdivided the Everglow, and it is what it is now. It's very different in handling and production to Oshamensis, but it has that beautiful late summer, early autumn strength of orange, and that's where it all came out of.
Yes, then that's something I think we actually see the orange earlier in the season. With us being a little warmer than you, we see it early, and we're able to take advantage and enjoy that color much earlier in the season. Of course, it lasts throughout the summer on into the fall. So thank you for that.
What we've seen with you guys in the US with your different light conditions in North Carolina, as you know, I visited there a few times, and even in March in West Virginia a few years ago, the first thing I noticed was, even though it was way colder than here, your light intensity is so much better early in the year. So we're beginning to see now with Carex Everglow. So we have here now in our warmer greenhouse, we have some Everglow and it's showing really good color. And if we bring this plant into our cooler zones, our color intensity gets less. And in this zone that we're growing the plugs here at the moment, we have a better light intensity than some of our hoop houses, as you guys call them. So one thing we've learned about Everglow and morrowii maybe in general different to oshimensis is its responsiveness to higher intensity light and also the warmer climates. It seems to accentuate that orange color that we're getting in the morrowii selection.
Mm-hmm. Okay, very good. That's great to hear. Again, you know that we're seeing the orange here throughout a lot of the growing season. We are thrilled with that. Very excited to see that. Other plants that work with the Everglow, have you seen Everglow in the landscape with companion plants? What is out there that could work with these plants, with your plants?
Yeah, in our landscape, due to the thing in the Irish landscape that is, as opposed to France, due to the things I've just highlighted earlier, it's not working in mass planting in our landscape as well as the oshimensis types. However, we're looking forward to seeing, you know, some uptake in France in particular, southern parts of France, maybe northern Spain, Portugal in particular. So from a usage point of view, at the moment, we're finding in combo planters, we're targeting it for the combo planter market in particular for fall planters, because we're getting that nice Halloween orange, pumpkin orange type color at that time. So associating it with fall combo planters together with, we've used it with Nandina Obsessed, which has got, we call it Obsessed here in Europe, you guys are calling it Obsession. It worked very well with Nandina in big, large mixed planters. We're also using it with green cordyline. We have a very bold green leaf cordyline called Emerald Star. It's working quite well in that strong, vivid, bold foliage green. And generally where the oshimensis is working, we're able to seasonally use Everglow, pointing it towards the late autumn, early autumn period.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where we're finding its peak color from about August through to October. And that's tending to be the usage. It's early days yet in the landscape in Europe, but my feeling is if you look at your latitude maps, it's going to be around mid-France, north of France, down to south of France, and more southern climates that it's going to work out the best in, we believe.
Okay. So certainly we'll be able to enjoy that in the southern United States easily, maybe not so much in the northern tier, except possibly in urns and containers and that sort of situation.
Yeah, the fall, that it's got that, well, you've got really good light intensity. And remember, most of the US is way more south than us. Even is in Canada far more south than us. So your fall light in all of your zones, your fall light is way higher than ours. And that's where Everglow is really starting to show up to deliver that unique color. For grasses, it's quite a unique color. Then for winter, I guess, yeah, you're definitely talking about the California, Mississippi, Alabama, all that belt across up to North Carolina, I guess.
Okay.
In that zone.
From the growing side, do you have advice for growers? Is there something growers should look out for when they have this? Does it need good drainage, full sun, heavy shade? What are you seeing? Of course, again, a different world than us.
Yeah. So what we're seeing with the roots, so we have a good example of a plug here. We're finding that it's tending to have a slightly thicker root than the oshimensis types. And we're finding that we need to stick to that. We use the Oshimensis compost, so we're using about 30% AFP in air-filled porosity in our compost. It's
Okay.
not liking wet, soggy conditions, anaerobic type conditions. It's sticking to very close to the profile that our Oshimensis varieties are liking.
Okay.
The real difference, I guess, is the light. They really do need more light intensity during the winter than our Oshimensis types.
So is that indirect light? I mean, is it a still shade loving plant, or can we get it out into the full sun here in the south?
I would expect, we're not experts on full sun here in Ireland, but I would expect that it's going to have trouble in, your high intensity
Sure.
summer. So I think you're talking about a summer shade I think,
Yep.
it's talking about a summer shade in your part of the world.
Right.
And even summer shade in your part of the world is kind of, in our part of the world, pretty much good sunlight. But
Yes.
I guess people are going to have to do their own experimentation in that type of, light intensity for summer.
Sure.
My own personal fear would be, again, I always work on the basis of the negative side, cautious, I would call it, saying that full sun might be a bit of a push in the likes of North Carolina and California, more
Sure.
southern climates. For sure, from fall onwards, it's needing that winter sun.
Okay. All right. Good to know. We have planted it on site here, and it performed well. It was in shade. The soil was rather on the dry side, so it didn't perform as well as I had hoped it would. So I think a little more moisture in the soil would probably help, at least in the southeast.
Yeah,
So
well, with the Oshimensis types, even we're running into trouble where we have raised planters and they dry out.
yes.
We don't keep that moisture, but free draining moisture, and that's typical of its native habitat. It's got good moisture, but free draining landscapes it tends to work in. And from the point of view of shade, I would be expecting it to be a good shade plant. I guess what I don't know yet is how does that color peak in summer shade type conditions. I suspect if you look at here right at the moment, we're in a greenhouse that at this time of the year has relatively low light intensity compared to even outside, and we're seeing some really nice orange colors here. I'm not sure picking up there on the camera.
Sure.
But it's, I'm very pleased this winter with our production. We've got a spread here, and every single plant is showing that orange color that I want to see. So if you take our light conditions, I'm sure it's probably summer shade, North Carolina, and much less even,
Yes. So Pat, another question on the morrowii group. We see them as spreaders here in the southern U.S. Could you explain how Everglow would be any different or possibly different than our morrowii, the morrowii species we're used to?
Yeah, right from the offset, it was very clear with morrowii, you have more compactness in it, less suckering, less spreading. So it tends to stick in more of a clump without spreading out vigorously into the neighborhood of where it's planted. It does spread, but very much more slowly than other types of morrowii varieties. Also, its height, it's showing a much reduced height habit than other varieties that I know. And of course, in the case of Everglow, the color is obviously key. But certainly if I compare the traits that I would see now morrowii is planted a lot more, remember, in your landscape in the US than it would be here in Europe. But from what I've seen on continental European plantings of morrowii, Everglow is for sure shorter, doesn't spread as much, and less suckering from the sides than other varieties.
Okay. So in our landscape, we would probably plant them a little tighter than expected. You know, I think that a lot of the morrowii we work with, we will place in the landscape, anywhere, maybe 15-inch centers with Everglow that might be a little tighter if we're doing mass plantings.
If you're doing mass plantings, I don't want to say what percentages it is, but I would say that it's at least 30% less on spread, maybe.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's good to know. Thank you for that.
Certainly not the vigor in spreading, but it's got that sturdy vigor, you know, as a mass, it produces the foliage.
Okay, very good. Well, you have quite a few behind you, that's for sure. So you're ready for European distribution. Yeah,
well, that's a percentage of what we have on hand. We're very pleased with the uptake. In the European, growers are targeting it one time of the year, and that is for fall sales.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah,
all right.
It's relatively new on the market. Actually, you guys had it almost ahead of Europe from any numbers perspective.
Okay.
It's been running here now 2 years, and just because there's nothing really of that color type in the fall, it's getting favor to be put in with the EverColor fall collections. And, you know, there are some good sales in the fall of our grassy type, especially the evergreen high color. And of course, we have quite a few Dutch customers, and as you know, is their big color. So I guess that's helping a little bit as well. Predominantly, all of these plants here are heading to the Netherlands from Ireland.
Is that right? Oh, wonderful, wonderful. And again, someone will shift those up to a larger container.
Yeah, we sell into, I don't know what you guys call it, but it's a 15 centimeter to a 17 centimeter container. Our clients will pot the 4 centimeter plug. So this plug here, will go into a 15 to 17 centimeter container in April, and then it will be a good pot full for August, September, October sell.
Okay. Oh, good.
And generally, they'll sell that through quite quickly during the end of August through to early October. That sell-through will be executed.
And then you start all over again for the next year.
Exactly.
Good. Very good.
A little bit of production now coming for spring. They're starting to experiment, but due to its fondness of light, I think we're happy that it's hitting that nice spot for the autumn, because we have other early spring, you know, Oshimensis types like Everillo, Everest is really popular over here from February through May.
Okay. All right. Well, again, it's very exciting to see you continuing to work with the EverColor series. We're always waiting for you to expand on that, and I'm sure you're thinking about it. And again, we certainly appreciate your time, and you know, the opportunity to sit and chat with you and see what you're doing and how Everglow is working for you and its future. So.
Yeah, no, I'm very pleased. And of course, Hoffman Nurseries have been a fantastic supporter of EverColor right from the beginning. So we do really appreciate that. Maybe we don't say it often enough, but thanks for giving us the opportunity to say it out loud.
Yeah.
But I hope I enlightened a little bit on the Everglow. Of course, you're going to be more experts than us on it, I think, in the near future, in your conditions. That's the great thing about plants. It's a different plant in a different place.
That is so true. That is so true. So, and we, again, appreciate the opportunity to sell and to grow and sell your plants here in America. So they're very popular, as you well know, and we will continue to do so for the future.
Excellent. So. Well, we'll try and innovate a little bit further now. We're trying to stretch the boundaries a little bit more for the coming years, not bring the same old, same old.
Right, of course. So, is there anything else that you can think of that we can add and tell our viewers?
I guess I'm always tending to be on the cautious side of talking up our plants. I like them to talk for themselves. So from my perspective, it's a bit of a learning curve, to be honest with you. No man is a prophet in his own land, they say, but no man is definitely not a prophet in another guy's land. So at least I just, you know, it's a learning curve what you guys are doing, and that's why I appreciate very much the effort that Hoffman Nurseries goes to in all of the research that you do, and testing and trialing and location trials, spacing. So, I mean, you're going to be writing the book on that.
Well,
Yeah.
possibly. Well, we do love our Carex here, native and non-native. So, and you've certainly added to the mix with the EverColor series, and we greatly appreciate what you're doing out there. And again, please continue.
Yeah, well, it was a big step for us to move even one step out of Oshimensis. I don't expect we're going to move too further on than that. For us, it's, you know, it's a 30-year endeavor with this EverColor series. We actually began through the first purchase of Evergold, and I don't have space in my little brain for any more on Carex other than this. If we can do a little bit more in morrowii, we're going to try it out of the Everglow, but we'll be trying to stick our focus on our Oshimensis. But this was a really nice surprise coming from morrowii.
Yeah, very good. Great to hear. Well, thank you again for your efforts. We do appreciate everything you're doing.
And I'm glad we could connect with all the technology risks.
That's right. If we can't come see you or vice versa, then we've got to do it this way.
Dive in through the screen.
All the viewers, I want to again thank you for joining us. David and I will be hosting this little event afterwards, and luckily we were able to get Pat on board with us today. So Pat, we're thrilled to see you here and actually see you. And again, thank you. So there will be questions. We will try to answer them the best we can. It'll certainly help to have Pat on board. So
I got a question for you, Pat. Can Everglow be planted under trees?
Yeah, it's certainly from a shade tolerance point of view, it likes shade and shelter. Of course, it really depends on the region. And, you know, when you say under trees, I'm always assuming that the soil capacity and the moisture capacity is there, because sometimes in under tree settings, we don't have, you have drought conditions. So I think this is the key point to remember with the Carex. You know, you're going to get a deterioration in the appearance if you're suffering summer droughts. But from a light point of view, yes, I would say I'm quite pleased with it as a performer now in semi-shade, dappled shade, I suppose we would call it here.
Okay. Pat, what first attracted you to Carex oshimensis?
Easy. Even I couldn't kill it. Basically, it was, believe it or not, before our business. My connection with Carex Everglow predates actually my connection with Fitzgerald Nurseries. So we actually imported, if I remember correctly, I think I got the first plants from a company called Duncan and Davies in New Zealand, and we brought them as Beirut. And that was, it was around 1988, 89. And what attracted me to it was its versatility, its capability to be used in containers, and its capability to be used in as a landscape plant, and it grows quite well here in Ireland.
Got a question from Matthew Steinkoff. He's got a question about trimming and what is the best practice for trimming carex and grass in general?
That's a really good one. Yeah.
You're using machines by hand. What do you have on that side of, what type do you have on that side of the water compared to here? Oh,
yeah. So, yeah, in my own garden, I have it planted in two aspects. One is in open, full sun. We have a sunny day here today, but unfortunately it's January. So summer sun, it's fully exposed. We do get some heavy light, and then we have some planted in very heavy shade. And the ones that are in open sun this year, we really had to take them to task and cut them back. So last March, we hacked them the same way as we would pruning a shrub. So because they're not such a big spread of them, we just individually pruned them to an ugly looking ball. So they were, because you know how it grows. So we shaped them, and I was a little bit sorry for them, but really this year was really interesting for us because we hadn't given them in the past such a hacking back. And wow, they really look good now this winter already. Well, by midsummer, they were looking good. So they, number one answer, they do take quite an aggressive hacking back. I would suggest, there is a possibility after a number of years you can subdivide and maybe replant as your clump center gets really intense. But here, for sure, they take quite a hacking back. Using a hedge cutter or a strimmers, I haven't tried. I'd say it could be dangerous, maybe. I think
you're right.
Good sharp shears at them rather than getting yourself into tangles with hedge cutting equipment, or that we cut our production stock back with what we call a super cut. It's I think you guys know the machine, and they take to it quite well, but then the leaf is not as hard as it is in the landscape.
Well, and you're not taking off nearly as much material too.
Yeah, you're taking off tips. Yeah.
From the production side, that is.
Yeah.
I've got a question. How would you recommend to best show in the natural landscape? Can it be used as a solid ground cover with others, or is there a concern with competition?
For me, in where we've used them in a couple of applications and where clients of ours have used them, living walls is really a utilization that's actually, after surprising me, there's some numbers running now, especially with Everglow in living walls, in shade landscape in groups. The biggest impact I see in South Korea, they're planting quite a lot of it as big group plantings. In Japan, it's quite the same, big group plantings. And, in drifts of 7, 12, 15 type groupings, that's where in a landscape situation for a natural shade, I saw some usage down in Alabama in very heavy shade in natural landscape type setting, and I would have said Everglow, do you really want it? But the shade actually turns it to a different color in a natural landscape, and you have less of that vibrancy in the chartreuse, and it's getting more towards a lemony lime color, I noticed, when it's being used in warm areas in heavy shade. So that really looked effective against green plants, especially hostas and these type of plants. You're getting the evergreen of the EverColor range, and then you have the hostas popping up as a backfoil, and you still have your color in the EverColor through the winter period. Now, I'm not the expert landscaper or never will claim to be one, but those are the aspects I've liked them in myself personally. And containers, of course, especially big containers where they're well able to look after themselves in competition against everything else and spill out over the edge. And again, Everglow has proven to be quite strong with blue colored containers, which went through a fashion run here a few years ago.
Interesting. I've got a question from Bill Hall. Do you see any differences in rooting between the EverColor series?
Yeah. There is. I suppose Everillo is one of the easier ones. We find it's really easy. So I would say Everillo is on the upper side of easy. I would say Everest is on close to the upper side of easy. And some of the ones that we're coming with now new, which are, say, Eversheen is one which takes a little bit more of a challenge. And as you know, Eversheen is more compact, less vigor in it, but it does clump really well. But so if you were to do, and we root Eversheen, it's relatively easy, but if you don't get the right mix right, and if you don't take a little bit more care, we're finding Eversheen would be on the the challenging but not difficult side, and Everillo is just they fall on the ground and they root.
Okay. Would you say that translates to a finished pot? So those are the ones that are more difficult to root, harder to grow in the landscape as well?
Yeah, I do believe that for Eversheen, it's like Eversheen is a beaut, like it's really a nice landscape one as well, in a nice smaller confined areas. It's, it'll do a lot of stuff that the other ones are much more vigorous on. So I really like Eversheen, and it's growing very well. You need more open structure and more air-filled porosity, I'm finding, for the Eversheen, and salt sensitivity on Eversheen will be a little bit, Eversheen will be more sensitive to high salt. So those are the things you need to watch for Eversheen, whereas Everillo and Everest are more workhorse-like. They'll suffer a lot more adverse conditions. But I must say I'm really pleased with Eversheen, and we have a new one coming now soon that is a nice stable white and green that is the same shape as Eversheen.
Okay.
That's the morphology thing that I'm talking about as well. We're finding the thicker stemmed and the heavier and the wider leaves are rooting stronger, and then the finer, thinner, less vigorous ones are the ones. So it's all to do, I suppose, with the physiology of the plant itself, and we've got to learn, these ways around, looking after them that little bit better.
Mm-hmm. Again, Pat, thank you for this. It's great to have you on board with this during the live session. It's a very nice surprise, and we're glad we could bring you on board. And I know that the viewers appreciate it. Again, thank you for Shannon and the team for doing and providing images for us. Pat, do you have anything else to add to us?
No, I just look forward to actually meet all you guys over there in the US in person, and you coming back to Europe, and hopefully the world might not go back to normal, but at least we can all mingle again sometime.
We hope that's the case. This, Pat, thank you again for coming on board with us. And again, to our viewers for joining us, we appreciate that. And hopefully we'll see you at the real MANTS show next year.
Great.
Hopefully.
All right. Bye-bye. Thanks, everyone.
Bye now.